Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Praise be unto the Most High, the creator of all things, the creator of our father, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which most call Jacob. I am your brother, Yermiyah, YOSHSHAALIA Benyahrael, and this is Real Talk. Today, we're just going to go over the book of Exodus, and we're going to go over starting at, we're going to start at we're going to start at chapter 20. Before I get into the scriptures, I want to first say to all my Akis and Akodis out there, my brothers, my sisters, my family, Shabbat Shalom. I love y'all, and that we have to be very vigilant. We have to stay prayed up, fast up, and all these good things, because we are close to, our time of exiting out of this Egypt. We're very close to that time. And we have to remember something, that while we are here, we're being washed and renewed in our minds with the Word. The Word is the water. It is also what is washing us. The blood covered us so that we would have no more sins. So whenever we went to the high priest, which stands as a mediator between us and the Father, which is the Messiah, that blood is shown to the Father for the remission of your sins. But if you keep on committing the same sins and the same acts without any remorse, without any growth, then you're walking and trampling over the blood of the Messiah, and that's very dangerous for all of us. I first like to start off with now, it's very important that we have an understanding that in the first Exodus, there was a multitude that came out with the nation of Yasharah, a mixed multitude. And this mixed multitude also ended up in the wilderness. And this mixed multitude, as Amore Shamak from North Carolina, if I'm saying his name correctly, beloved brother out there out of North Carolina, Shamak, who just did the Passover with Lamar Yahoo. Beautiful lesson. It's actually with the Most High, after I listened to the lesson, Most High put on my heart to speak on some of the same things, the issues, because it's been in my heart dealing with all this bickering that's going on amongst the nation of Yasharah, all this division. You got a lot of people who come into this truth, and when they come into this truth, they don't want to keep these laws. You got a lot of sisters that come in here, and when they come into this truth, they find out they got to cover their head up. Some Akis teach that the covering is only for when you're praying and prophesying, that you don't actually have to cover your head outside of that. Well, it's a sign, and I went over that before. The covering of your head is a sign. So for those women who do not cover their head when they're out in the street, you're dishonoring your husband. And that goes for my Isha as well. I'm not going to speak about nobody else's Isha. That goes for my Isha as well. When she's out in the street and her head is not covered, she's dishonoring her husband. And the angels know disobedient women. Even if the understanding is not there and, people have to grow, blatant disobedience, blatant defiance is witchcraft. So even in my household, I had to start home first before I could speak on anything else. I had to start home, my foundation. If things are not right in my foundation, then I can't judge somebody else's home or judge how somebody else is building their foundation. So even when my Isha stumbles at the fact of wearing her hair covered all the time, that's something that the Most High is going to deal with her on, one way or the other. And that's for any ox that's in this truth. When you got a young Israelite woman who struggle at some of the things, you don't necessarily, push her to the side and get rid of her. You grow, you help her grow, and you help her mature. But for those ox who got sisters who blatantly will be defiant, then there's options, because you have to look at the scriptures of whether or not they're committing adultery through the way of idolatry. Meaning, are they following the customs of other small GODs? Are they seeking after, smelling after some other teaching and doctrine that is contrary to what you're teaching? Because if you're the head of your home and you teach a doctrine and that's your foundation you're building on, your Isha is supposed to build with you on that same foundation. And if she starts bringing in doctrine from some other foundation, what she's doing is she's poisoning your pot that you're cooking. The pot that you got with all your vegetables that you cut in, she's adding foreign substance inside of that pot. Therefore, she's a witch. Cut off. Some ox have that. And I'm going to tell you, the best thing for you to do is you go to the Most High with it and bring your complaint before him, and then see what the Most High tell you to do about it through scripture, through fasting and prayer, and through confirmation, and then you act on it immediately. Whether he tell you to stick around and water that plant, or he tell you to uproot that plant from your soil, or you uproot yourself out of that soil and move on. Let some wicked man have that woman, because what she's going to do is destroy you and the foundation that you're building that the Most High told you to build. She's going to take the tools that you've been using to chisel out, to hammer in, to jackhammer in, and to paint in. She's going to take those tools and get some other tools from some other doctrine for you to use, and you're not going to carve out what you're carving out correctly. That's what happens when you have, someone that you're unevenly yoked with. And the reason why I say that, because a lot of people that's in this truth are not of the nation of YOSHSHAALIA. I am totally convinced of that. I've been convinced of that a while, and when Shamak brought that out, Maurice Shamak brought that out, Aki from out there in North Carolina. When he brought that out in the Passover, the Passover that they had with Lamar Yahoo, a couple other Akis that were there, it was like ding, 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 because I've been looking at the same thing. A lot of people are not of the nation of YOSHSHAALIA. It's just plain and simple. A lot of them are not of the nation. That's why they had no problem, going and reading the Book of the Dead. Because they are those Egyptians. Their bloodline go back to their forefathers. So they're following their customs of their forefathers. See, they get confused, like a lot of people get confused about who they are. But when I knew I was a Hebrew, or should I say when I knew I was of YOSHSHAALIA, that I was not an African American, it was embedded in me as a child. I wasn't taught by my mother, nor was I taught by my father that I was of the nation of YOSHSHAALIA. It wasn't taught by my grandmother. I opened up my mother's huge, giant Bible that she had. She had this big Bible that was about, no exaggeration, about this wide, about that long. And I used to flip through this thing because of all the graphic images that were in there. You know, I was a child that, you know, spent a lot of his youth, very young time, from the time I was, you know, about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, probably up until I was maybe 13 years old. I stayed in National Geographic books, the Encyclopedia, stuff like that, looking at the images. Looking at the images. And when I would go through my mother's Bible, at that time I was a child, barely could read, I was able to look at those images and knew they were false. Just by looking, I knew that they were not true images. Why I felt that way at the time, I did not know. I never could understand why I could not accept that. And then one of the first persons that I learned about was Martin Luther King. And when I read his autobiography as a child, I knew that we were Israelites. Because the similarities of what we went through in the 60s and how we got to be here in the first place, when I, you know, was learning so-called black history. And when I would hear the stories of Moses, you know, when Charleston Heston would come on, and you would hear about Passover, and when I would see the movie, it was too much of a similarity to our people. And then hearing when Abraham was told that in the fourth generation, you know, 400 years it would be in bondage. And without even having the precepts on it, without even having a true understanding, I already accepted that as that was our people. Without even being, you know, taught, well, this is the way you can tell that this was talking about our people, I just automatically believe that scripture when the Most High was talking to Abraham about his children will go into captivity for 400 years, will come out with great substance. And then in the fourth generation they would go back. I knew he was talking about us because it was in my spirit, because it's in my bloodline. And for those who don't believe in this truth and struggle with this truth because they can't keep the law, statutes, commandments because it's too grievous for them, is those who were out there in the wilderness that was murmuring at the time when Moses and Aaron was out there, you know, wanting to go back to Egypt. And that's why you have a lot of people going back to Egypt, Egyptology, and following after African customs, because they were amongst us in Egypt and came out with us in the wilderness. And now they're amongst us today in all the places we live in these Americas and around the world. And that's why you have those who, as soon as they hear the Hebrew Israelites, fall in love with it and stick with it, and then those who will leave and gravitate out because they are of their fathers. And then you got some who gravitate out because they follow so many different false doctrines, they're not grounded. Anybody can whisper in their ear and tell them anything. You know, like a whore. You know, a whore is a woman that, you know, any man can walk up to her with the right game. You know, if he got what we call, from where I'm from, spit game, he can spit. You know, he can speak, you know, with that slang, he can spit. He can, you know, get up in your ear, you know, and be like, yeah, what's up, sister? You know what I mean? Blah, 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 this and blah, 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 that, all up in your ear, and then, you know, you just melt. Because you like the way, you know, you like his game. You know, you like the way he pimped you out. Because most of you, that's what you like to be. You like to be pimped out. A lot of your sisters like to be pimped out. A brother come to you straight up, with his back straight, come to you with the word, and try to wash you, you know, clean that filth off of you, you're going to reject it. Like a pig. A pig, once you take it out the mud, going to run right back to the mud. Because that's what they're accustomed to. So just like a lot of these sisters, they will reject the law, statutes, commandments dealing with keeping your hair covered. And the spiritual understanding of it is that the fallens see it as a sign. Those who keep in Shabbat right now, that's a seal on them. Those who kept Passover, whether you kept it a couple of weeks ago, a couple of days ago, because truthfully, when springtime came in, the first being the budding, the New Year came in, and Passover is 14 days after. A lot of us struggle with that. If you read the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, I believe verse 18, it tells us about the observance of the feast days and how it's going to be grievous for us. So don't go crazy because this people keep it Passover this time, this people keep it Passover. We will get the pureness of what we're supposed to keep at what appointed time. Remember, the whole earth is off its course. There's something that a lot of brothers don't teach. And I'm going to go there real quickly before I get into Exodus. I don't want to drag this out so long. I can get very long-winded when it comes to these scriptures. I love them. I love studying. I love this truth. But above all the studying, above all this truth, if I could not read, I still would have it embedded in me because it's in my bloodline, it's in my DNA. And it should be in you, and it should be not grievous to you, but it should be like honey to your lips. It should be sweet unto you, as Shemot so beautifully and eloquently, explained it. Let's see. I think it's in Psalms 82. Let's see. And it should be, okay, it's I'm going to start at verse 5. It says, they do not know, nor do they understand. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. Now it says shaken. In other Bibles, it would say, and all the foundations of the earth are off its course. But even if it says shaken, we know that if it's being shaken, it can't be on its correct course if it's being shaken, because it's being moved from side to side, being twisted. So it's not on its course. It's not on the correct course. It's not operating the correct way. So we're not operating on this earth in a correct manner because we, as Israelites, must understand something. We are being rebuilt. We are getting the leaven out of us. We are being given the charges of being built into counselors and being built into judges, as it says in the book of Isaiah chapter 1, that I will restore my judges, my counselors and my judges as in the past. So he's rebuilding us. Don't lose heart. Don't faint. Because things are not according to the customs of our forefathers. Don't think that you are doing anything wrong if you're trying your best to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. For you sisters who have an ish, if your ish is in this word, and your ish is praying, and your ish is keeping Shabbat, and your ish is keeping feast days, don't go look to some other ish or some amore that you see on YouTube, and then go and try to see if this amore or this teaching match up with your ish. Regardless if it matches up or not, that's your ish. You ought to follow him. Not to be followed. When you go follow after another man's doctrine and bring it into your home, you commit whoredom. And you are a prostitute, you are an adulterous woman, spiritually. Because what you do is you destroy the foundation of your ish. you make him weak amongst other men. And a lot of you sisters have a knack for destroying Israelite men, because you will go and whatever your ish is doing, because you don't agree with it, you'll go and ask another op in the truth. You're going to ask another op, well, is that correct? And I noticed because when I was married before to my daughter's mother, you know, it was a feast day, and it was Feast of Tabernacles. Actually, no, it wasn't a Feast of Tabernacle. It was, let me try to think what feast it was. Oh, it was, I'm sorry. It was a Day of Atonement. And, you know, you're supposed to fast for 24 hours. But truthfully, the fast that the Most High, the afflicting of the soul isn't actually the fast. A lot of people teach that the afflicting of the soul is fasting, that you restrain from eating for 24 hours. Well, that's not, for me, that's not afflicting my soul. I fast. I mean, when I was following Islam, you know, I did Ramadan. So it was not afflicting my soul. When I was in my early parts of the walk of just learning the scriptures, not calling myself an Israelite, not calling myself a Christian, but I was calling myself a commandment keeper, that's what I am. I'm a commandment keeper. Someone who just reading the Bible, I fast. You know, I have fast many occasions. So it was something I enjoyed doing. It's something I enjoy doing now, so that's not afflicting my soul. What afflicting your soul actually is remembering all the things you've done wrong to the Most High, and remembering how He blessed you, how He brought you out of this situation, brought you out of that situation when you prayed to Him and you asked Him for something specifically, and He gave it to you. And the promises that you made, the vows that you made unto the Most High, for doing so, you turn around and then keep your part of the bargain. That's afflicting your soul. Thinking about the wrong things that you've done unto the Most High, and unto your brothers and sisters that you say you love. That's afflicting your soul. Remembering your sins for 24 hours. The fasting is only symbolic. But the remembrance of your sins, the wrongdoings that you have done, is spiritual. But as I was saying, I was teaching my former Isha, and that's why she's former Isha, that we are to fast. She didn't want to fast because she was pregnant, and there were a lot of other sisters that, did fast. So instead of her, saying, well, I'm pregnant, which I already knew, and I don't feel as though, I should fast. And I'm telling her, well, you need to fast for 24 hours, or at least try to fast. She calls up one of my Akis and asks him. And he goes and instructs her and tells her, well, you don't have to. Coming in my household, way up home, and giving orders in my household. This is what happens when you have women, as one of my say, uncooked ribs. They would do this. Now, by her doing that, she made me look weak amongst that brother and the other aunt that I used to deal with. We talked about that, and we brought it to him. That you don't come in somebody else's household and dictate what goes on in there with his ish. You shouldn't even be speaking to nobody else's ish about what she should be doing. Because anytime a sister comes to me with a problem with something, I give her scriptures. But I give her scriptures for her husband. I don't say this is what you should do, sis. I would say, well, this is what you need to give to your husband. Or let him call me. I'll talk to him. But I won't go against another aunt that's in the truth. If an aunt's wife called me and say, well, I don't see why I should do this or that. I'm going to say, well, what the scripture says in 1 Peter? That you are to obey, submit yourself in the book of Ephesians. Why? Submit yourself unto your husband as if he was the Messiah. So whenever you got an Isha that does not do that, she's rebelling. And you pray that the Most High do one or two things. That the Most High separate you from her. It's go for you sisters who got, ox that is going against the Torah. You pray that the Most High separate you from him or her, or that the Most High touch that person's heart and spirit and bring them back to reality of this truth. Because you're going to have a miserable life with that individual. And what I see inside these scriptures dealing with the mixed multitude, and what I see now with inside the nation of YOSHSHAALIA, there's a lot of foreigners amongst us that bring in doctrines from their fathers. That's why they're so quick to gravitate to so much African culture. And I did it when I was searching for my identity when I was younger. I would go to a doomsday, or some say a doomsday. I would go to those festivals. I used to go to when they used to have the African American parade. Back when I was younger, I would go. My mother would take me. Then as I got older, I would take my nieces and nephews. And my oldest son, which is, he's 25 now, I used to take him back in the day because I was trying to identify. But as I got older, I moved away from some of the things. Some of the things I still went because I like the gathering of seeing my people. But when I fully came deeply involved in this truth, I realized that if I went amongst those people, I went just to get out and enjoy myself, eat some food, listen to some Caribbean music or whatever, some jazz, some poetry or whatever, but did not accept the doctrine of pouring out water to Mother Earth, and did not accept the doctrine of us being Africans. And, I didn't accept that doctrine no more. I just, was around my people, and as I mature now, I can go in amongst those people, and I can go and pass out the truth to them, and not be indoctrinated by them. See, I can't be influenced outside of this Torah. I can't be influenced outside of this truth by any other doctrine from any other nation. I cannot be influenced anymore. Because it's set in stone inside me, it's chiseled in me. Some people, they're like a leaf in the wind. They're driven by any wind of doctrine. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Like Arnold Horsack, from I bet Welcome Back Carter. Every time you turn around, they over here, they over there. These people will come in amongst you, and they hear the doctrine being taught, and they sit up there, and they have a certain look on their face. And that look is a smug look like that. Well, Amore so-and-so said that that's not correct. Or, well, I was listening to this teaching, and it was saying that Abraham really didn't even exist. And how do we really know that this is really true? Because the white man did this. These people are devils sitting at your feet. These people are devils that you have joined yourself to in holy, set-apart matrimony. Now you got to get rid of them, or you got to go to the Most High for them. And I'm saying this because Shema brought that out, and when he brought that out, I was like, wow, because I see this inside of the nation of Israel. That there's a lot of people that call themselves of YOSHSHAALIA, but they don't stand on the truth. They are quick to bring in doctrines that is so foreign to us as foreign guys are to us. They bring in doctrines coming from Africa, like calling yourself an African Hebrew Israelite. How are you going to be an African Hebrew Israelite? I thought that we were all YOSHSHAALIA. Just like, all these different divisions of I'm this church of Israel, or that church of Israel, and this camp of Israel, and that camp of Israel, and all these names. When it was one body, Israel, YOSHSHAALIA. So I look at a lot of this and I see that, we have to be very careful about those who we allow to come in amongst us. Because we can identify the strangers that we can look at and know that they're strangers. We can look at them and say, oh, I know you you from the tribes of Esau. I know you from Moab or Ammon. I know who you are when I look at you. But when we look at Israel, because Israel and Ham had children with each other. Because Benjamin was almost wiped out in the book of Judges. So they had to go attack the village that was close by and kill all the men and get the young girls that was left so that Benjamin could replenish themselves by having babies with women. So we know that Israel bloodline is mixed. But it's still pure because it's from the Father's seed. But we know that there is a lot of mixed multitudes around us from the way that they act. They don't act like us. You can look at some of them. They don't fit in with us. They might look like us, but they really act more like other nations. Everything about them you can see is of another nation. And they'll try to fit in, and that's why they have so much of a hard time adjusting to this truth, because it's not their truth. It is the truth of the universe, of the earth, but it's not their truth because they were never given this truth. They are the ones that the Most High said in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, I believe, where he said that I have given the sun and the moon and every creepy thing on the earth and all the hosts of heaven for the other nations to worship. But as for you, YOSHSHAALIA, you shall worship me, for I have taken you unto myself as an inheritance, as you are this day. So those other nations, he gave them the sun, the moon, the creepy things on earth, the animals, the fish in the sea, the fallen angels, all those things to worship. But we were never meant to worship those things because he did not give it to us. So that's why they gravitate to it. And that's why, we have to look at that. And we have to stop saying to ourselves, these people are just stiff-necked Israelites. No, they're not stiff-necked. They're not Israelites. That's all. Now, you got some that are not Israelites, as I said, that you can spot them because when they come in there, you can say, oh, this is a white man. Or this is a Chinese man. But those who look like us, you can't really spot them. Because they got the same color, same texture hair. They might be Israelites on the mother's side, but not Israelite on the father's side. So you have a mixed multitude that's inside causing division. That's why, you have this problem. We haven't eradicated them out or put them in their place. Like, listen, stop causing problems. Coming up with these different doctrines that no one has ever heard before. And not saying that it's not correct doctrine, but you'll bring it out as this is the full truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you, creator of all things, Yahweh. I'm more geared to calling the creator and the eternal one of our father Abraham, who was given understanding and wisdom. And the reason why is because there's so much emphasis on the name. And Zephaniah chapter 3 tells me that he's going to purify our lips so that we can call upon his name. And we're not purified to receive his name in a way where we won't damn ourselves. See, a lot of us don't understand that. I don't care what you say. And listen to you ox out here who teach that you have the correct name. You still walking in the flesh. You still operating in the flesh. Some kind of way, you're still operating in the flesh because you're in Babylon. That's why it says, flee. Babylon. Wash yourself. Do not touch any unclean thing. So if you were here In Babylon, you touching all kind of unclean things. Your house is unclean. I don't care how spotless it may be. It's unclean. It's mold in there. If you go through the laws, you know what the law said about having mold in your house. Come on. So, you can't tell me that you are purified, that you're dwelling in purified homes, that your clothes that you're wearing is purified, that the water that you're drinking in your body is purified. So the Bible said, touch no unclean thing. What was one of the laws given unto Aaron, and his son? Wash yourselves before you touch anything that is dedicated to the Most High, that is given to the Most High by the people, that goes on his, it goes in his sanctuary. So all the things that was inside the sanctuary of the Most High, you had to be purified in order to touch it. You had to wash yourself with water. This was one of the requirements of the Levites, because this is where the Muslims get it from. When they do voodoo, the washing of the hands, doing the right hand a certain many times, doing the left hand a certain many times, the right side of the body, the left side of the body, the feet, the ears, taking the water up the nose, all those things, taking the water, all those things come from the priesthood. When before they came into the temple, they washed themselves with water, they purified themselves. Baptism is a form of purification. So we was given purification law. So you can't tell me that because we've been in this this captivity, and because the Most High has reached out to us to give us the truth of who we are, that we are all now purified because we got the word. So we purified. How many of you actually that believe that you have the right name take a shower before you pray in the morning, or do you just brush your teeth and wash your face? What about your private parts? What about if you have a sore on you and it's leakage out of it? I mean, come on. Some of you allow women to come to service on their menstrual cycle. I've never heard of that. That is okay for the sisters to come to service, Shabbat service, on their menstrual cycle because we're not in the temple. If you're going to practice keeping the laws, then practice all of them. You let sisters come into your congregation on their cycle, that's not keeping the law to me. That's like a blood sacrifice. That's disgusting. And you even do that. But I have heard of it. I've heard of it. So, as I said, a lot of things have to be taken care of. Ox, be careful about some of these sisters that you're marrying. Sisters, be careful about some of these ox, because some of these ox are not of the nation of YOSHSHAALIA. They come in and then they get with these sisters, and then they go in and they go in these sisters' lives. That's why they're so quick to marry you and run off. Marry you and run off. Come in there and mess you up and beat on you and do all kind of violent things to you, and they talking about Shabbat Shalom. Some of them had the same spirits of other nations that were wicked, causing problems amongst the other righteous ox, as they did during the time of Judah and Israel going against each other. You had, the southern and northern kingdom, and the people within those kingdoms was arguing and fighting amongst each other, killing each other over the word. Some didn't want to keep it. Some were trying to add in false doctrine. That's what you have with some of these ox, doing the same thing. Stick to the word. Stick to the word. Allow the Ruach to guide you and give you strength and understanding of this word. But a lot of you won't do that. A lot of you will not allow the Ruach to teach you because you think you know so much. And then you go out there and now everybody else is dumb because you have this secret doctrine that's been hidden from everybody for centuries. Well, if you have been privileged to receive that information, then come humbly and teach and bring your evidence. Precept upon precept. Line upon line. Prove all things without a shadow of a doubt. If there's a shadow of a doubt, there's going to be a problem. The book of Exodus, chapter 20. Then Yahweh the Creator spoke all these words saying, I am, Ahaya, Ahaya, I am the Master, your Elohim, your Creator, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, Mitzrayim, out of the house of slavery, house of bondage. You shall have no other false gods before me, no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourselves any idols, or any likeness of what is in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the water under the earth. Now let's look at that. Verse 4, you shall not make for yourselves an idol. Now, some people teach that an idol is something that you carve and make and worship. But in verse 4 it says, you shall not make for yourselves an idol of any likeness of what is in heaven. So you're not supposed to make a carving of the sun or the moon, or the stars, or the angels. It said what is in heaven above or on the earth, animals, beneath the earth, or in the water under the earth. Verse 5, you shall not worship them or serve them. For I, the Master, your Creator, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, on the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing loving kindness to thousands to those who love me and keep my commandments. So the command was not to make any graven images of anything that's in the heavens, or anything that's on the earth, or under the earth, or under those seas that's under the earth. Nor should you worship them, bow down and worship them. So he said you ain't supposed to have these carved images in your house. How many of us understand that? Because some ox will say that we can't have nothing. No pictures. Because that's where the Muslims get it from. No idols. No wood carving. You know how some people got African art in their house. Some people got, all kinds of things, paintings of all kinds of things in their house. Most I say we're not supposed to have them. So is he saying that we're not supposed to choose these things out and have them? Or is he saying that we're not supposed to worship them? Well, let's look at common sense. If I was to have a picture in my house of my mother and my father, just a picture. If it's just a picture that I have in my house, so I can look at my mother and my father, am I worshiping them? What is worship? Is worship honoring them? See, these are things that we need to sit down and discuss. But until we go into the wilderness where we will be purified more, we'll have that understanding, because I can look at that and I can say, well, as long as I'm not bowing down to them, I'm not worshiping them. Somebody else will come and say, well, by having it, you've shown them honor. But doesn't the Bible say, honor thy mother and thy father? So the correct understanding of this is that you're not supposed to have these carved images in your house and bow down to them and worship them as if they were the Most High. Having them is not so much the issue. And I do believe that we should not have certain types of carvings in our home, especially carvings of human beings, of angels. I don't think we should have any of those sculptures in our home. Anything that's in the heavens, any pictures of what we think the Messiah looks like, or the Father looks like. I see a lot of Israelite camps be having pictures of this woolly hair, white hair, red eye image of what they say the Messiah looked like or the Father looked like. We don't know. And therefore, that's idolatry. Because we're making an image. And he told us in the book of Deuteronomy that you saw no similitude. Therefore, do not make. And a lot of people break that commandment. They break that law of making idols, pictures of what they think the Most High look like, the Messiah look like. Now, we're going to go into verse 6. But show me loving kindness to thousands of those that love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Most High, your Elohim, in vain. For the master will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. That's why you should be glad that you don't really know his name. Because a lot of us will take it in vain. Just by accident, not even on purpose. Verse 8, remember the Shabbat. Remember the Shabbat day to keep it set apart. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is a Shabbat of the Master your Elohim. In it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male or your female servant, or your cattle or your sojourner who stays with you. For in 6 days the Master made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Master blessed the Shabbat day and made it set apart. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be prolonged in the land. The reason why I got loud when I said honor your father and mother, because when I was coming up and in church when they used to read this, as soon as they got to that part, honor your father and your mother, because they was making a point to the children to honor their mother and father. That your days may be prolonged in the land which the Master your Elohim gives you. And this talks about being prolonged inside of the nation of YOSHSHAALIA. But we can look at that in a deeper spiritual note. How many children walk around here today that disrespect their parents? Or how many children that you know that were very disrespectful to their parents, or people that you know that are very disrespectful to their parents and now they're gone? Cut off in their 30s and their 40s and their 20s and their teens. Verse 13. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or male servant, or female servant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. And all the people perceived the thunder and the lightning flashes and the sounds of the trumpet and the mountain smoke. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood at a distance. Verse 19. Then said to Moshe, speak to us yourself, and we will listen, but let not Yahweh speak to us, lest we die. So the people heard how the Most High spoke to them concerning these laws. He wasn't playing. They were so afraid of how he spoke to them. They said, listen, Moses, can you come here for a minute? Can you move from that mountain that's trembling and come over here? We agree that we're going to follow this, but for now on, could you talk to us? Because, man, I thought I was going to die hearing that spiritual voice. Imagine if you was to see him. If the voice made you tremble, imagine seeing him. We're going to go to chapter 22. No, let's go to chapter 21. This is titled The Ordinance for the People. Now these are the ordinance which you are to set before them. If you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve for 6 years, but on the 7th he shall go out as a free man, without payment. If he comes alone, he shall go out alone. If he is the husband of a wife, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall belong to her master, and he shall go out alone. But if the slave plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out as a free man, then his master shall bring him to Yahweh, then he shall bring him to the door of the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, which is an earring, A-W-L, awl, and he shall serve him permanently. And if a man sells his daughter as a female servant, she is not to go free as the male servants do. If she is displeased in the eye of her master who designated her for himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. He does not have authority to sell her to a foreign people, because of his unfairness to her. And if he designate her for his son, he shall deal with her according to the custom of daughters. If he takes to himself another woman, he may not reduce her food. This is scripture that a lot of females throw at us about how can you take another wife, because if you take another wife, your duties towards your wife, you cannot reduce her things that you're supposed to give her. This is pertaining to a slave. So if you are a slave, then yeah, this will pertain to you. But if you are YOSHSHAALIA, it was not pertaining to you. It was pertaining to a slave woman. I mean, a lot of people take things out of context because they want to use it in a way of showing their disdain for plural marriages. How you brothers gonna get another wife? Mind your business. And I'm gonna keep repeating that about your sisters. Always got your mouths open about things that you say a man can't have. You're stepping over the boundaries because man was made first. Learn your position before you can teach somebody anything. Teach your children at home these laws and commandments. Have them on Shabbat recite the 10 Commandments. Instead of being on Facebook while your children run around the house doing, who knows what, and you will then try to tell somebody about having more than one wife. Get your house in order, but you can't do that because you ain't got a man, and you ain't got a man because you're too pretentious. When you contend with the word, you contend with the word, which was with Elohim, and everything that was made for him, and nothing was made without him. So when you contend with the word, you contend really with the word. That's on you. That's why he's coming with a sword. And back to the ranch. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, verse 10, if he takes to himself another woman, he may not reduce her food, her clothing, or her conjugal rights. And if he will not do these 3 things for her, then she shall go out for nothing, without payment of money. Verse 12, the word personal injury. These are the laws that were given to our people. Remember, in Deuteronomy chapter 30, when he says that when you are in captivity and you rethink the things that you've done wrong, and you call into mind, turn back to these commandments that I command you this day. This is what he's commanding the people, and this is what he was talking about in Deuteronomy chapter 30. These laws, statutes, and commandments that he's commanded that day. Verse 12. He who strikes a man so that he dies shall surely be put to death. But if he did not lie and wait for him, meaning that he didn't purposely do it, but Yahweh let him fall into his hand, then I will appoint you a place to which he may flee. If, however, a man acts presumptuously towards his neighbor, so as to kill him craftily, you are to take him from my altar, that he may die. So remember, I'm telling you, this is what was being told to the congregation. And when you go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 30, because you see, I'm making a point here about how they say that we can't keep our laws, and we can use this as our laws to this country, or how we deal with things without having to deal with them. I was teaching you a little something, because if we say that we are YOSHSHAALIA, and this country says that every man has the right to the freedom, to the practice of his religion, and that's part of the Constitution, we can stand on these laws in every aspect of them in this country while we're here before we leave. I'm just briefly going to Deuteronomy chapter 30, and I'm just going to read what it says. So, Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1. So it shall be when all of these things have come upon you, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before you, and you call them to mind in all nations, where the Master your Elohim has banished you. Did he send you out? Banished means to be sent out, kicked out. And you return to the Master your Elohim and obey him with all your heart and your soul, according to all that I command you today, you and your sons. Then the Master your Elohim will restore you from captivity. So while you're in the captivity, you are to obey all that was given to you on that day. What day? When the Most High was on, when the Messiah was on the mountain, giving the laws, statutes, commandments, giving the 10 Commandments to them, then giving the laws and the ordinance to the people, the laws on personal injuries, the laws dealing with property rights, the laws dealing with the Sabbath, the laws dealing with the feast days, all those things, and return and obey them and keep them, then he will release you from your captivity. See, these are a sign of obedience and allegiance to what was being given to us that day when our foreparents said, we hear and we obey. So we have to get back to that. We got to establish this in our homes and our everyday life. Everyday life. We must establish it. If someone kills someone amongst our people, we shouldn't be going too long. Even in the New Testament tells you, then you go to the law before your brother, you go to the foreigners, you go to the heathens before your brother about matters. You don't go to, you don't, look, I'm going to show you. Because I've been going over these things and I say, a lot of the stuff that we're doing, we're not understanding that, the Most High is telling us to go back to what he gave us, regardless of where we at. And we understand all these things, and we start standing on these laws he gave us, then we can go to these courts. We can go to them and say, well, these are our laws, and we're standing on them. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, I'm going to start at verse 1. Does any one of you, when he has a case against his neighbor, dare go to law before the unrighteous and not before the saint? So you go to these heathens, you go to the police department and go to the DA office that is of some strangers or someone that is unrighteous before going to the set apart ones of your people. Verse 2. Or do you know that the saints will judge the world? The Israelites will judge the world. And if the world is judged by you, are you not competent to constitute the smallest law courts? Do you not know that we shall judge angels? How much more matters of this life? And then you have a law courts dealing with matters of this life. Do you appoint them as judges who are of no account in the church? So do you appoint people over you that have nothing to do with the law, statute, commandments of the Most High? Because the articles was given unto the children of Yasharal. It was not given to other nations. It was not given to other nations. Verse 5, I say this to your shame. Is it so that there is not among you one wise who will be able to decide between his brethren, but brother goes to law with brother and that before unbelievers. Now, let me stop right there. How many sisters go to the courts for child support? You're not supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to go to the elders that's in the community and say, look, I had a baby by this man, and now he don't want to take care of his children. He's laying up with Susie Q and making babies with her, and he's not supporting his responsibility he has with me. The law, right here in the book of the Torah, deals with matters. We don't have to go to the court. We have the law of the book. Once we teach the people that they are of YOSHSHAALIA, in our communities who do not know, once we go and teach this and establish it to the people, then we can let them know you don't got to go to the police department. You come to the mores. You come to the judges and the councils that he is setting up in your community. Those who on the corner, thus saith the Lord. Hear ye, O Israel. Our Elohim is one. Lord YOSHSHAALIA. I'll come to why. You know what I mean? The words you hear out there screaming. With the blowhorn, with the mic. Then you go to strangers. The defiled. The heathens. You go to them before you go to the saints, to those who are set apart about matters. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you something. Because the laws was given to us. The laws was given to us. You don't go to no strangers. And it's sad because we had to deal with it. Like right now, I'm dealing with a situation with my daughter mom that, I keep on telling her that, I'm going to go to them people on her. Because she's not doing right. But truthfully, I'm about to get some sisters in the truth to, that I can, rely on to call her and talk to her about being a real mother and about why she's keeping my daughter from me and to prove all things of which her claim is and bring it to court. I'm like that with everything now. Like if my Isha got a problem with me about something, or I got a problem with my Isha about that, I'm not gonna sit there and keep on arguing back and forth with her. I'm gonna say, okay, well, let's prove our thing. Let's bring it in front of council. Let's bring it in front of the Akis and the Codis inside the community that we go to, or we go to, deal with, or Akis and Codis that we know that's in the truth, and let's have let's have an online conversation or whatever, because this is what we need to do. But before we can go ahead and tell somebody else to do it, we got to practice these things in our own homes. And that's why I'm saying that the Most High gave the law, statutes, commandments to us. What did he say about the other nations? Let's look at it real briefly. Real briefly. Most High got my spirit going right now about these laws that are given to us. These are ours. Okay. Let me start at chapter 4, verse 4. Let me start at chapter 4, verse 1. And now, O YOSHSHAALIA, listen to the statutes and the judgments which I am teaching you to perform in order that you may live. So, this is the laws that he was teaching our people. When we go to Deuteronomy chapter 30, he said to return back to. Verse 1 again. And now, O YOSHSHAALIA, listen to the statutes and the judgments which I am teaching you to perform, in order that you may live, and go in and take possession of the land which the Master, the Elohim of your fathers, is giving you. You should not add to word which I am commanding you, nor take away from it, that you may keep the commandments of the Master, your Elohim, which I command you. So all these brothers bringing in these other different doctrines that's not in here, you're adding to the words. And all those who say we can't keep certain things no more, you're taking away from the word. Verse 3. Your eyes have seen what the Master has done in the case of Baal Peor. For all the men who follow the Baal Peor, the Master, your Elohim, has destroyed them from among you. Well, and that's what the Most High going to do with a lot of you, Baal Peor, that's amongst the nation of Yasharal. He's going to destroy you. No, seriously. He's going to destroy you. Verse 4. But you who held fast to the Master, your Elohim, are alive. Those who stood fast, held fast to this truth, are alive today, every one of you. See, I have taught you statutes and judgment, just as the Master, my Elohim, commanded me, that you should do thus in the land where you are entering to possess it. So keep and do them, for that is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the people, who will hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. Well, they don't say that about us no more. They don't say that the nation of Yasharal is a wise people. You know what they say about the nation of Yasharal? They say that we are nothing, degenerated people of no wisdom and no knowledge. They say that our women are whores and sluts. They say that our men are drug addicts and punks and cowards and absentee fathers. They talk about us like a dog. They don't say that we are a wise and understanding people, because we walked away from our wisdom and our knowledge to follow after their custom. They knew something that you didn't know. And this is what they knew. And we keep on continue reading. Verse 7. For what nation is there that has Elohim so near to it as is the Master, your Elohim, whenever we call on him? Or what great nation is there that has statutes and judgments as righteous as this whole law, which I am setting before you today? So again, in chapter 30, it says that when I'm commanding you today, and you return back and do this in the land of your captivity, he will free you. What was he establishing? Keeping the commandments. If you go back all through Exodus, what was given? Passover, unleavened bread, the Feast of Tabernacle, all those was given to us. He told us to keep them in the land of our captivity. What was not given to us by Moshiach is things that were added. They were added. You know, like people keep Purim. It was not given to us in the laws. Now, can we observe Purim? Yeah, we can observe Purim, because Purim it should be observed for what happened, because we would have been annihilated. But we do that to remember what happened. But it's not a law given by the Most High for us to keep. It's a custom that was added. Verse 9. Only give heed to yourselves and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things which your eyes have seen, and lest I depart from your heart all the days of your life, but make them known to your sons and your grandsons. Remember the day you stood before the Master, your Elohim, at Horeb, when the Master said to me, assemble the people to me, that I may let them hear my words, so they may learn to fear me all the days they live on the earth, all the days that they live on this earth, and that they may teach their children. And you came near and stood at the front of the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire to the very heart of the heavens, darkness, clouds, and thick gloom. Then the Master spoke to you from the midst of the fire. You heard the sound of words, but you saw no form, only a voice. So for all you Akis who got those pictures of what y'all say the Messiah looked like, because that was the Messiah on the mountain, Ahia. That was the Messiah talking. It was not the Father. The Father has never dwelt with us. We have never seen the Father in no type of form, shape, or fashion, only when we saw the Son, when our ancestors saw the Son. Those of us who are alive today may have seen the Messiah didn't know it, might have seen a vision, a dream, might have seen him pass you by on the street. And the reason why I say that is because he says in the book of Second Esdras, in the Apocrypha, that he's going to give a quisition, and at a certain time he was going to come down to visit man on earth to give a quisition about what's going on down here. So yes, it's a possibility that some have seen him and not known. But as far as him making himself known to us, no, we have not seen the Messiah in that way. So therefore, there should not be any paintings of him, any sketches of him with red eyes and none of that stuff. That's a man that was made up. And people look at that and put them on their shirts and say, this is what the Father look like, this is what the Son look like. No, it's not. Because as he says right here, verse 11, and you came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire to the very heart of the heaven, darkness, clouds, and thick gloom. When the Master spoke to you from the midst of the fire, you heard the sound of words, but you saw no form, only a voice. So he declared to you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform. This, the 10 Commandments, and he wrote them on this tablet of stone. And the Master commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgment that you might perform them in the land where you are going over to possess it. So I'm going to show you something also. In certain scriptures, verse 13 of Deuteronomy chapter 4, it says, so he declared to you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even 10 commandments. They have here, that is the 10 commandments. And then it goes on to say, and he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. Then verse 14 tells you something else. Which means the add-on, and the Master commanded me at that time, and not only did he give you 10 commandments, and the Master commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that you might perform them in the land where you are going over to possess it. So watch yourselves carefully. Since you did not see any form on the day of the Master spoke to you at Horeb from the midst of the fire, lest you act corruptly. You act corruptly and make a graven image for yourselves in the form of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any animal that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged bird that flies in the sky, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters below the earth. And beware, lest you lift up your eyes to heaven and see the sun and the moon and the stars, all the hosts. Let's look up the word host. It's 6635. 6635. You go to the concordance and look up that word host. 6635. Just want to see what they have here. Sometimes when you go to concordance and you'll go look and you don't know what the word they're talking about. So that's why I don't take the concordance as full value, because they tell you that is their closest guess of what they think. And these are by those who are heathens who shouldn't have had to touch the scriptures at all. So we can't take everything that we find in the concordance as full value. That's why a lot of people getting all these different new breakdowns, because they're getting it from heathens who went in and to their best estimate, this is what they think their scriptures is saying. But that don't necessarily mean that is true. And we take it as full value over true scriptures and true doctrine. 66, what was it? 66, it was 6635. 6635. Look up the word host. Okay. it says, a mass of persons or fig things organized for war, army, and campaign, hardship, appointed time, battle company, host serving soldiers waiting upon war. So when I gather from that, from just by saying battle company, host service soldiers waiting upon war, talking about angels. I already really talking about angels, but I just wanted to see the breakdown of it. Talking about angels. So it says when you see the host of heaven and are drawn away to worship them and serve them, those which the Master, your Elohim, has allotted to all the people under the whole heaven. I want you to understand something. Listen to what he just said. Those. Let's go over this again. Verse 19, and beware lest you lift up your eyes to heaven and see the sun and the moon and the stars, all the hosts of heaven, and be drawn away to worship them and serve them, those which the Master, your Elohim, have allotted to all the people under the whole earth, under the heaven. He have allotted. The word allotted means have allowed, has given. He has given the stars, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and all the hosts of heaven. He has given those things to the other nations for them to worship. He's given them, he's allotted to all the people under the whole heaven. Verse 20, but the Master has taken you and brought you out of the iron furnace of Egypt to be a people for his own possession as today. So all the people on the earth was given, allowed to worship the sun, the moon, the stars, and the angels. They were given those things to worship, but the nation of YOSHSHAALIA, the nation of Israel, the children of Jacob, the children of Jacob, was never meant to worship anything but the Most High, the creator of all things. Give me just a moment. So let's look at the book of, let's look at another precept on that. I mean, not another precept. Another, let's see, let me go to, we're going to Deuteronomy chapter 4. And, while you listen to my theme music right now, you're listening to my theme music right now. I want you just to bear with me just a second, okay? Verse 19. And take heed lest you lift your eyes to heaven, and when you see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the hosts of heaven, you feel driven to worship them and serve them, which the Master, your Elohim, have given to all the people under the whole heaven as a heritage. See, as a heritage, meaning they are given as a heritage, as their lot, as what they can worship, with the sun, moon, stars, and all the hosts. But Israel was never given that lot, was never given that heritage. We was given a heritage of worshiping the Most High, and the Most High of all things. That's what he gave us. So we have to understand that we was given laws and commandments, and we have to understand that he gave all those other things from other deities to the other nations, but not to us. We were supposed to be what they saw as righteous, set apart. And we walked away from that. We walked away from that. We walked away from that. We walked away from these laws, statutes, commandments. And he told us that in Deuteronomy chapter 30, that in the land of our captivity, we are to go back to this. We are to come back to what was given to us and keep them. Back to Exodus chapter 22. We are to go back to what is ours? Chapter 21, I'm sorry. Start at verse 12 again. He who strikes a man so that he dies shall surely be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait for him, but Elohim let him fall into his hand, then I would appoint you a place to which he may flee. If, however, a man acts presumptuously towards his neighbor as to kill him craftily, you are to take him even from our altar that he may die. You have been listening to Yermiyah, YOSHSHAALIA, Benyahrael, and this is Real Talk, and this is part one of returning back to the law, statutes, commandments while in captivity. Returning back to the law, statutes, and commandments while in captivity, according to Deuteronomy chapter 30. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom.